Welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with Daniel.
And Daniel.
And today is another one of our weekly update topics, or discussion topics. Yeah, you gave me that look, I know. This is June 17th, and it's our Wednesday Chits and Giggles episode.
Oh, boy, this was a hard one to go with. Our topic is, what two games do you think should be combined to make one game? A lot of this for me was going through what theme I want with what mechanism, what game I really like mechanism-wise with theme, because that's the only way I could actually combine them in my brain.
Right, and that makes sense. Like, I mean, some are mechanism and then the theme added on top of it, or slight parts of the mechanism in. And what inspired this topic was the fact that we talked to Jamie Stegmaier or just a couple days ago, and him and Ted Alspach combined a couple of their games, and so they had Between Two Cities and Castles of Mad King Ludwig to combine to make Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig, and which sounds really cool. And then he's also done this before with another company that made Leaders of Euphoria, where they took the Euphoria theme and combined it with Good Cop, Bad Cop.
Yeah, basically a social deduction game with the leader, Euphoria world.
And I was thinking about this and what other companies did this and why, and there was only one that immediately came to my head, and that was Dead of Winter Flick 'em Up. And that was one that they combined, Dead of Winter and Flick 'em Up, two companies combining very different games.
I see that.
Yeah, but I can't think of any other off the top of my head. I'm sure the comments will say otherwise, but this was an exercise in a very different way.
Yeah, it made my brain hurt, not in a good way like some board games do.
Right. Yeah, so I'm curious to see what your answers are. I have no idea what they're going to be, or even if we're going to have any crossover. I think we might have some crossover though. With one of our games, I think there's a crossover.
Well, you got a lot of hope there, buddy.
You'll see why. When you hear my number 3, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no. I don't think there's going to be a crossover.
Okay. All right. Well, then honestly, I'll probably be wrong. But here's the thing. We also asked the audience as well, and we had some great responses from this one, and I would love to see what other people say. So why don't you start us off with the first one?
Would like to get ready into it real quick, but my phone, Facebook, decided to freeze all of a sudden, so I'm having trouble getting into the...
Yeah, you're having the worst issues over there. All right, well then I'll go ahead and start it.
And the thing is, my thing isn't even on on Wi-Fi. I took my phone off the Wi-Fi.
Well, that's why it's not being helped by it, I guess.
Yeah, well, T-Mobile has been having issues this week, so...
True. All right, well,
I'm up and loaded now.
We asked the audience, podcast discussion topic, what are two games that you would like to see combined? Example, Between Two Castles of Mad King Ludwig. And so Brian, he was the first one to comment on it, and he said Shadowrun Crossfire and Descent. Do you know what Shadowrun Crossfire is?
I've heard of it. For every time someone says Shadowrun Crossfire, it makes me remember, what is it? The Crossfire game back in the day where you're shooting little marbles at each other.
Yeah, most 90s commercial.
If I remember correctly, that D&D deck builder that we played was a re-implementation of Shadowrun Crossfire.
Dragonfire, yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Dragonfire is a re-implementation of Shadowrun Crossfire, set in a fantasy D&D universe.
Which Descent is what he's saying here, but I think he likes the lower Descent a little bit more.
Yeah, which makes sense. So that would be a good candidate that we would encourage Brian to try, and I'll go ahead and comment that and ask if he's tried Dragonfire, and because I think that's a really good comparison.
Yeah. So while Danny's over there doing that, Eric said, and I'm actually intrigued by this one. I'm surprised I didn't even think of this. Gloomhaven and XCOM, or any sci-fi game for that matter, taking that Gloomhaven mechanism, that dungeon crawl, that feel, that D&D feel you get with it, with uniqueness.
Right.
and make it into a sci-fi version,
Right.
I think would be a fun. I love sci-fi. Sci-fi is one of my favorite genres. Fantasy's up there too, but that sci-fi genre would just be so interesting. And I liken it to a video game company called Bethesda.
Yep.
They do Fallout, which is post-apocalyptic. They do Elder Scrolls, which is your high fantasy style game. But they're coming out with a sci-fi version of those two games called like Starfall or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So I liken that to that it's going to be like I think that would work in a board gaming aspect too, where you have that sci-fi blending with the fantasy build.
Exactly. I mean, that's one of the few things you don't have legacy or campaign games in space too much. I mean, you have Shadowrun, which is kind of like it. It is sci-fi, but it's an RPG, and that's about the closest we've gotten so far. There's no like legacy or campaign game based on it too much. But so that's a really good example. Eric, good job on that one. And then Joe replied with it. And I had to bring this up. Isaac's third Kickstarter, Space Haven. I love that.
It's going to make like $20 million.
Right.
Just the way his game's been going.
Yeah.
But I remember talking about it because I just started editing the crowdfunded podcast part of it, the when we did the top 8 debate, and I was putting them up on YouTube. And his first one was only like $100,000 for first printing of Gloomhaven. Then the second printing was $3 million, and then Frosthaven was like $1,000 shy of $13 million. So he releases a space version of that game. It's going to be in the $20 million. It's the way he just jumping.
The way it's adding on. That's obscene. I mean, 100,000 to 3 million. That's a 30 times increase.
Yeah, and then from 3 million to nearly 13 million.
That's obscene. All right, that's awesome. Brian, he said, I've always thought a Legend of the Five Rings reboot would be awesome, done with the Marvel Champions mechanics, just change thwart to diplomacy and make it a competitive instead of co-op, or both. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all.
I don't disagree with that. The thing is that the Marvel Champions is a retheming of the Arkham Horror LCG game, which is a retheme of the Game of Thrones LCG game, which is a retheme of the Lord of the Rings LCG.
Right.
And if I remember correctly, doesn't Fantasy Flight now own the Legend of the Five Rings
yes.
license?
Yes, they do. So,
yeah, there you go. A re-implementation of that.
Yeah, right? All they have to do is just do it. That's it.
Yeah. So, Ryan Moss, and I think this is partly a joke and partly not, is Kingdom Death Monster and My Little Scythe. A kid-friendly version of Kingdom Death Monster I don't know is actually that possible from things I've seen of it.
Right. I mean, maybe Kingdom Death Monster and regular Scythe, but, I mean, Bert kind of hit the head on the coffin, whatever. I'm just mixing up that saying even more every time. But he said Kingdom Death Pony.
We know someone who would buy that in an instant.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it would have its audience for sure, but I mean, what a bizarre combination. I love it. Fred said Coup of Catan, which actually
two games I don't like.
Well, you don't like the negotiation in it. Excuse me. Which I don't blame you. But
yeah.
the big thing in Catan is that negotiation and that back and forth of getting the resources you need from the other player. And Coup is lying about your roles. I think it could work, actually. That I don't know if it was a joke, but I could definitely see it working, actually. And putting the Catan world into like this negotiation hidden role thing.
Yeah, not my style of game.
No,
I probably would not want to play this.
You would hate it miserably, but I could totally see it happening for sure.
All right, so Ben adds Carcassonne cartographers, and this one has me intrigued because what would you do? Would you put the flip and right and make that Carcassonne theme on the flip and right, or do you do a tile placement cartographers?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like a Carcassone roll and write would be really cool.
Both of those actually sound quite intriguing.
They never made a Carcassonne roll and write that I'm aware of, and yet, but I mean, like the Railroad Inc. That's kind of similar to it, and then they made a King Domino roll and write that I
Yeah.
think would work as well.
Is that the dual domino or is just King Domino rolling right?
King Domino Duel, I think.
Yeah, yeah, because I thought there was the 2-player.
Yeah, it is.
Really? So the next one, this is interesting.
Yep. Go ahead.
No, this is
Oh,
you.
this is me. Okay. X-Wing Span. That's a play on the words. Add the Star Wars theme to some light tactical combat to the game to provide some interaction. He wants to combine X-Wing and Wingspan, which, I mean, in a way, the creators of Mice and Mystics, they did
Kind
something
of
similar to that.
Yeah.
Like the mice
with,
riding the birds.
Tail feathers?
Tail feathers,
Birds of
yeah.
a feather? Something like that?
Mm-hmm.
So I like what Brian added to it. Our bird feeders can't repel hummingbirds of that magnitude.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
Chris added he would like to see dominant species of Caledonia. Both games I'm not familiar with.
Right, neither am I. Dominant species, I know a little bit about it, and Caledonia is kind of a civilization game. So, yeah, I can see that. Sorry, Chris, we don't have more to say about that one. We've just never played either of them.
Yeah.
Timothy said Gloom Haven. Emphasis on Gloom. It's Gloom Haven, starring the families from Gloom. So basically, you want to be just super depressed in like a campaign mode. I think that would get too real.
No. Just because you're putting one of my favorite games, my number one game of all time, with a game I utterly despise.
Right.
Utterly despise.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a weird one.
So Mike was saying he would like to see tiny epic viticulture. Make and export small bottles of wine to concert and moviegoers. Last one to get busted for contraband wins. So basically you just want to make rum runners tiny. That's what you're saying here. Contraband, rum runners.
Yeah, but I think, a mini version, I couldn't help but think that like the tiny epic anything was ripe for worker placement. I'm glad they finally did it with Tiny Epic Dinosaurs. That was really the first worker placement one that they've done of that, and I think it would make a lot of sense. Like if you made a micro version of viticulture, I mean, I would play that.
And I mean, it's been proven that the tiny version worker placements work. If you look at the Mintworks, yeah, that's a nice little tiny worker placement.
Yeah,
I actually really enjoy that game.
Oh yeah, I haven't played it yet, but I've been wanting to. I mean, it's obvious that it would work. Jacob said Isle of Cat on Mars.
So glad I left this one for you.
Well, I'm glad you did Tiny Epic Viticulture, but Isle of Cats on Mars. I mean, sure, whatever.
I guess what he's trying. I know he's making a joke here, but like the Isle of Cats, from everything I'm seeing and why people love it, isn't so much. Yeah, people like cats and stuff like that, except for you, and I'm allergic to them. Yeah. Is the polynomial puzzle that the game makes, where you're trying to get a set collection of a certain type, or trying to get different ones based on the scoring cards that are out there, and fitting them on your ship with in certain areas, and they have to be touching each other. I think that could work, and that style of game just is nice when you're just trying to make that puzzle aspect work.
A polyomino game would be really interesting, like in a Mars setting. I think that would work pretty well, actually.
So Dave was saying Castles of the Russian Railroads.
I mean, Russian Railroads, if I'm not mistaken, is a pick up and deliver game, and making it from like Castles of Burgundy, I'm guessing, or Castles of the Mad King Ludwig. We're not sure, but one of the two. I can see it like being a Stefan Feld doing a pick up and deliver game. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how it would work, but yeah. So John, go ahead.
All right. John said A Feast in Chinatown. The negotiation of Chinatown with the tiles from Feast for Odin. Another polyomino example showing off in there. I don't disagree. I think a lot of people are going to use the polyomino examples into other games. Could polyominoes be the next Cats as far as mechanism go, or the next deck builder? We'll find out soon, but at this pace, it's getting there, huh?
Yeah, no. Sorry, I read the next one to get ready, and it made me giggle.
Yep, John.
Azul Haven. Dungeon crawler where you fight baddies to find colorful tiles to adorn to your wall with.
Harvest their bones for clay.
I know a lot of these are jokes, but the topics that they're coming up with just makes it worth it.
Right, exactly. I mean, I almost think that it would be worthy of having like a generator, just two board games, and you just combine them instantly. That would be awesome.
Well, it's like we were just talking before we started about Pokemon Go and stuff like that. So there's a website, I can't remember what it's called, but where you can fuse two Pokemon together. So you could get like a Bellsprout mixed with a Charizard.
Oh God, that would.
And it's called like a Bellazard or something like that.
That's so weird. All right, Jonathan. So we have John, and Jonathan, all back
all
to back.
Spelled differently.
All spelled differently. Jonathan said Mage Haven, Mage Knight, and
Gloomhaven.
And Gloomhaven.
Which I think could work from everything I've heard about Mage Knight. I've never played it myself, but just plugging the Gloomhaven mechanism with that world, I think people would be in love with, just because of the Euro mechanisms that Gloomhaven has for a dungeon crawl.
Yeah, definitely.
Tom decides to, not join the Johns and do his own thing, and that's Raiders of the North Sea attack the Architects of the West Kingdom. So you have Shem Phillip games, Garphill games combined there, and that would be actually quite interesting.
Yeah, that really would. Like, you have the Euro building the walls and then going out and attacking them. Like, it could be an asymmetric game if done right.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be really cool.
And so Eric was saying Raiders of the West Kingdom, and Tom repeated, maybe those architects better stop building a church and start building some walls.
Oh, that's a wonderful back and forth between Eric and Tom. Good job, guys. Alexandros said Islebound plus Above and Below plus Near and Far. He just wants to see all of them combined into one big epic. I can
see that, though. I could really see that.
Yeah.
So I think at least mixing Islebound with Near and Far with the storytelling I heard that got better in Near and Far with the sea exploration that is Islebound, because I have played Islebound and Above and Below. I have not played Near and Far yet, but I've heard really good things about it.
I've only played Above and Below.
And I dig that one. My copy of Above and Below, the storybook is signed by Ryan Lockett.
Nice. Oh, I'm a little envious of it. Ryan Lockett seems like a cool guy.
He's really nice. A little awkward at times.
Yeah, well, aren't us all? We're all gamers, of course.
Yeah. Nezi adds Neze. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Lords of Lowlands instead of Waterdeep.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm assuming Lowlands is part of the Dungeons and Dragon world as well.
I think so, yeah. And so instead of Waterdeep being the location,
the focus.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can see that happening. That'd be a cool one. Jason says Shadows over Camelot. Oh my goodness, Shadows over Camelot. I mean,
you got to worry about that one camel chipping that other camel, or
one camel is moving backwards just to mess everybody up.
The organized crime corrupting the race.
Oh, that would be a good one. I mean, like, so you have the possible hidden traitor in like Camelot, or is it you're in your camels in the Camelot setting, trying to find the Holy Grail? That, like, I mean,
or you're the Knights of the Round Table. You got to watch out for that one camel that might be a traitor.
Right, the camels of the Round Table.
All right, so Eric adds Seven Wonders with Armada, Imperial Assault. So basically a Star Wars theme on it, which would be interesting to think, but I don't know how well that would work. Maybe if they take out like the negotiation and working together and the science and just go straight war.
Yeah, right. I mean, it sounds like, a drafting version of Armada.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's basically, isn't that basically Blood Rage at this point?
Sure.
No. Not really. Dario says Kingdom Death Continent. I'm not sure which one the continent part of it is.
Seventh Continent.
Seventh Continent? Okay. Yeah, okay. Well,
so what you're saying is you just want another massively large Kickstarter game that can only be made on Kickstarter.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
Charles said he would like to see terraforming Zulkin. Once Mars is terraformed, The people lose their tech and have to rebuild their basic technologies while sacrificing to the gods.
That would be
Never
cool.
played Tzolk'in myself, but
Yeah.
I love the engine building aspect of terraforming Mars, so it'd be interesting.
I mean, I think that's an awesome like basis for the lore. Honestly, that's probably
Yeah.
my favorite theme combinations that I've seen so far. Is the idea of like Mars has been long terraformed and became the new Earth, but then like it goes back to ancient civilizations on Mars. That's cool. Jason says the worst possible game I can think of: Munchkin Death Monster. I mean, yep. I don't disagree with that. I mean, that would be interesting to try Kingdom Death Monster in a Munchkin theme. But I mean, they already have Warhammer, so why not? Why not?
Yeah. Yep. So again, I'm gonna go ahead and apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce this name and butcher it. Gochi, Chaos in the Small World. I don't know where he's getting the chaos from, but is it Small World Chaos anyways? You got all these warring factions going after each other.
Isn't it Chaos in the New World or something like that?
I don't know.
I believe, yeah. Or Chaos in the Old World, I think, is the name of the game. So yeah, it would be like more of a campaign-driven Small World, I think.
I'd be intrigued about that.
Yeah.
Because eventually, it's like eras as you're going along the legacy aspect of it, and then when your thing goes into decline, you have the new resources per se. Like you get to keep some of the technology that they learned, but because a new race is going into that area.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah, that would be really neat. And then Sean is our last commenter. He put the Potions of Quedlinburg. I think that's Potion Explosion.
In Quacks of Quedlinburg.
But
I'm like, how would they? I mean, I guess it maybe if you add like marbles into the bag building,
right?
Per se, because they're both about potion brewing.
Yeah, and they both have explosions.
Yeah, you want good explosions and potion explosions, but you don't want explosions and quacks.
Yeah, so combining the two ends of that, maybe I could see it happening.
Yeah,
all right,
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about yours. So Daniel, you said that. You said this was pretty difficult, and I'm not gonna lie, this was difficult for me too. But I wanted the challenge. How did you approach this?
So I tried many different ways. I tried like trying to say like I like this part of a game to go with this part, but it wasn't working for me. I just couldn't figure out a way to word like how I would make this game like viticulture worker placement wise. But put it with this game where it uses drafting or something like that. I couldn't get the wording right. So all in all, the way I did this is just like I went with a mechanism I truly, truly enjoy and a theme that I think would really work with it, or another game in that kind of aspect of it.
Yeah, I approached it a very different way. I just started looking at random games on my shelf and just going, "Oh, that'd be cool. Oh, that'd be neat." Oh,
well, that's kind of where I went with by looking at my shelf, but a lot of it had to be like, I would like this game in this kind of mechanism style.
Right. Yeah. I have, so two of my top three are combining mechanisms I think would work really well. And then the third one, you'll see why. It's totally not.
So
it's actually combining
my
themes.
One is something I have talked about before. A lot of times in our top 8 debate, when a certain game came up, and you'll hear why in a bit. But my number 3, I think, can actually be made for sure. That's why it's my number 3. And again, I'll explain to it why it comes into place. And then number 2 would just be fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. Well, let's jump into it. So you had a couple honorable mentions as well.
Yep.
I had 2.5 honorable mentions. So I'll go ahead and start because I just want to give one a quick shout out, and I wanted to combine Azul and Mandala, and they both have 6 different colors of square objects, right? I just basically want to have an Azul card game is really where I was going with that, and they're both similar concepts. They're both very different, but they have a lot going for each of them. And so I just think an Azul card game or a Mandala board game, both of those would be really cool.
No, I don't disagree. That'd actually be interesting.
Yeah.
My first honorable mention here is I don't really count it a fusion per se. That's why it's an honorable mention. I just think it would be really cool because one of my favorite worlds is the role player world, as you can see right here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just think, as much as I like cartographers, I want another kind of filler game in that aspect. And role player says it in the name. What's it all about? Dice rolling. Can you guess what game I want to fuse it with?
Can't Stop? No. A dice rolling. No, I can't.
I said it when I actually gave you the hint. Fuse.
Fuse. Oh my goodness. Well done. That was.
So basically, the way I can see this working is that you're fighting the monsters that from the minions in Fiends and Minions or whatever, Monster Minions expansion. You're fighting the monsters, but you got to do it quickly, and you're working as a team, and you're trying to get these dice, but the red dice can only go to like the demon, and the black dice can only go to this. And I think it would be such a good little 10-minute filler game, honestly, with the mechanism. I think it would be just a fun game to play, and give me another game in the role player universe.
So it'd be basically role player with speed. Kane Plenko's role player.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be interesting. I mean, I could definitely see that. That was your first honorable mention?
Yeah, that was my first honorable mention.
Okay, cool. I could dig that. My second honorable mention is one that we kind of technically already have.
In your first full honorable mention, because the other one was just a little half point.
Right. This is my first full honorable mention, and that's Rhino Hero and Jenga. I want a Rhino Hero style game with like big clunky bits, and we basically have it with Men at Work, which you can see just a little corner of right there.
Yeah.
You're building a building with big wooden blocky bits and like cool things. I think there's also like Skybridge, and there's a few other games.
You can almost name it Rhino Hero Reconstruction, because after all those Rhino Hero battles and the towers destroyed and stuff like that.
Yeah, you have to rebuild the city. That would be cool. I would totally dig that. But so that's I mean, those are two very opposite. Jenga, you're trying to deconstruct. Rhino Hero, you're trying to build. Combine the two, I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. So, my next honorable mention is actually quite interesting. It's a game I just recently played, and I actually called it out saying I think this would be great if it was rethemed. And it's actually a retheming with a game we hated, but we loved growing up.
Really?
And it's not a board game. But the game that is being fused with it is a card game.
Okay, go ahead. What?
So I'll give you the game that I'll give you. I'll just go ahead and tell you. Pioneer Days with the Oregon Trail card game. Fuse those two games together and make a good Oregon Trail game.
Yes, okay, that's right. You did bring this up. I was just confused as to where the video game lay. Yeah. No, yeah, Pioneer Days is an awesome system, and it's basically Oregon Trail.
It really is, and out of the card game, the one card game we played at Oregon Trail, I haven't even played the board game because I was so annoyed with the card game. I have no problem with a game being difficult and things randomly happening, but I was eliminated on the first card. I literally okay, I'll take my turn. Dysentery, I died. I'm done.
Yeah, and you have to wait for everybody else to play. Yeah, no. It was rough. It was really rough. But, I mean, turning it into an actual Oregon Trails board game, which I heard that they did. They made an Oregon Trails
board game. They made an Oregon Trail board game. It got okay reviews. I think it was like a 5 or something like that. Tom Vassel's review of it was like, it's better than the card game. Well, and that's all he could really say about it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. All right, and my last honorable mention is I wanted to see. You know what is probably one of my favorite mechanisms?
Oh no, that's a tough one for you. You like deck building.
Yep, but
you like tile playing.
So
it's tiling,
and it combines two tile laying games in a very interesting way. It combines Carcassonne as its basis, but on the tiles of Planet, the 3D icosahedron.
Okay, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, the Planet of Carcassonne. Can you imagine how cool that would be to have pentagonal tiles that are set in Carcassonne style, and you're putting those on, and magnetic meeples that you're able to attach to the board. That would be awesome. I would love that.
You'd have way too much fun with that game. Just not even
You
playing the
would.
game itself. You just had fun like, oh, I could put this here, and I'm going to put this little meeple in here. Oh, but I need to lay him down
Right.
because he's going to be farming for me.
Well, I always thought it would be really fun to have like a globe be a magnetic board. I think that would be awesome. Like play
I
Risk
just
with
think there's
metal
a lot
pieces.
of like cost issues with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's completely unrealistic, but it's just. I mean, Planet did it pretty well with magnetic tiles.
Yeah, but then you're also talking about magnetic meeples.
Yeah, I am. I understand the concern on it. I just think it would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you. It actually sounds interesting, and I knew somehow you were going to throw Carcassonne in here.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I had to get. Well, I mean, I enjoy the tile placement of Carcassonne, and it does it so cleanly. So
My number three, my number three game that are two games that I want to see combined.
we're gonna go into the actual list now.
Yeah. So
Okay.
This is the actual list. Sorry for those that didn't. I just kind
Yeah,
of
those
jumped
were
into
our
it.
honorable mentions. We're not sure how it would work, but now we know how it would work.
And I know this would work, and I know this is possible because of the licenses. And I want to combine one of my favorite lores, movie-wise, books. I read a lot of the books too, and board games, as you can see, one of them right over there.
So this is gonna be Star Wars something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I specifically said Star Wars Imperial Assault, with another game that's on my shelf of shame that Star Wars Rebellion is sitting on top of. I don't know if you can see the name. Fury of Dracula.
Fury of Dracula. Wow. Okay.
And I think this could actually be made because Fantasy Flight does have the Star Wars game, and you could basically be, in case in point, I just played a video game of it called Fallen Jedi or Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order on PlayStation. It's on all systems, but it's where it's right after Order 66 has happened. It's about 5 years or so after the purging of the Jedi, and so there are some hiding. And so basically, the people who are going after you are actually the bad guys. They're part of the Empire. They're the Sith Inquisitors. They're chasing you down. You're a Jedi who is trying to hide and run and survive. And while he's at it, taking pot shots at the Empire to help to take him down, or joining the Rebel Alliance, or trying to get to it and stuff like that. And I think it would just work as a hidden betrayer game where you got the Sith Inquisitors going after the Jedi who's trying to just survive.
That would be cool. I thought you were going to go somewhere completely different with that. And so I wrote it down, and I'll bring it up later in case it does come up. But I think I might know now one of yours.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe. It's unlikely.
And the reason why I say this is possible is because Fury of Dracula was one of Fantasy Flight's best-selling games. There's a reason why it went all the way up to a 3rd edition.
Sure.
Because it's a really good game. I haven't played it myself, but it's a popular game for them. Well, they don't have the license for that anymore. Fury of Dracula is now Games Workshop, who I think they're working with WizKids now.
Yeah, I think so.
It's a Games Workshop property, but if they want to bring that mechanism back, that hidden betrayer, they can put the Star Wars license on it.
Oh, yeah, totally. Awesome. Mine is more of a concept than it would be a full-out game, but you'll see where this is going. I've always loved... Yeah, it uses concept. The game... No, I've always loved exploration of games. Like, exploration. Like, in video games, I was having a conversation with a friend of ours, and he was trying to figure out some of the games that he thinks that I would like from the indie video game scene.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, exploration. In, like, let's say Skyrim, one of my favorite things to do would just be spend hours just walking around and just looking at everything.
Finding all the little stuff.
Finding little things. And then in that indie game bundle that we got, there was one called A Short Hike. And, oh my goodness, that was a perfect example of the kind of game I like. It's not timed. There is an objective to it, but really, like, you can do so many paths, and quite literally, and just wander around and look and explore, and I've loved that. So that's why Gloomhaven has been one of the best examples of that, because sure, it's a series of battles, but you are also exploring and finding different things. But the high fantasy setting, it's okay. I think it would be awesome to combine it with a game that I have it's on my shelf of shame called Nautilus. I would love to see an underwater explorative campaign style Gloomhaven game. There is a company that's coming out. I think Plaid Hat is coming out with I don't
Forgotten
remember.
Waters.
Yeah, Forgotten Waters, and I don't know if that's pirate themed.
It is.
It is
pirate
yeah.
themed. I've seen reviews on it and looked at it. Actually, it looks interesting.
It looks
looks like a better implementation of the Crossroad games,
right,
than what they had with Gen 7.
Right. Yeah. Totally. And so, like, I mean, pirates, sure, yeah, I get that, but I want underwater exploration. I want deep water diving. I want the weird fantasy universe of Jules Verne. That's what I want to see.
So, I know you don't have like one of the newer systems right now. If I would recommend a game for you on that aspect, Subnautica. You're exploring underwater. You're also trying to survive underwater because your spaceship crash landed on a planet. But if you ever get like a PlayStation 4 or something like that, Subnautica is actually a really good exploration game.
I have seen that one.
I haven't played it myself, but I have watched like Twitch streams of it and live streams of it, and I really want to play it, just haven't picked it up.
Sure, I get that, but that's my number 3.
Nautilus. All right, so my number 2 is interesting. It's actually a game again that's on my shelf of shame, but I have seen it played and I have wanted to play it, just haven't been able to because when I got it during the lockdown, and it's a game that you've actually played.
Okay. Detective, yes.
And I want to combine that with, and I just picked this one, but it's just basically put a Sherlock Holmes theme on it. The Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective Agency, I think is what the game is called.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to combine those two games. Give me a detective searching game where you're working as a team and you're trying to solve a crime, but in the Sherlock Holmes lore. Me personally, Sherlock Holmes is one of my favorite book series. Me and my wife love this series so much that we have all of the books in like compendiums and stuff like that. They're in boxes somewhere around here.
So you're saying you want more of a structure and more of an actual like game instead of just the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. Have you played Consulting Detective yet?
I've seen it played. You were demoing it at the shop, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. And I was in a bigger game, playing another game, but I was watching what other people were doing, and they seem to be getting really frustrated with it because you're trying to be smarter than Sherlock Holmes, and it's just not working out for you.
You're going to lose no matter what. I mean, because at the end of every campaign and every setting, he literally just comes busting through the door and then tells every answer word for word, and you're trying to get higher than his score. Shut Up and Sit Down said it best. He was like a perfect score is 100. And you can get higher than 100, but he was like, try to beat my score. I had negative 35. It was something like that. It was like, as long as you do
give
that,
us an actual game we're investigating, and then heck, allow Sherlock Holmes to be one of the detectives, because with detective, you're all doing like different jobs. One person is working on the computer, some person is making sure the tokens are, and this is how you played it, but I think it's a good way to play it, and a lot of people say it this way, is that make sure everybody has their job, that they know what they're doing. Someone's writing down the clues, someone's keeping that information where everybody can be like, hey, what did they say here, and stuff like that. And I think that would work in a Sherlock Holmes world.
Totally. I completely agree with you.
What would be cooler about it is if they do, instead of doing the classic Sherlock Holmes that we're all know and love, instead do the most recent BBC series where it's Sherlock Holmes with Benedict Cumberbatch in the modern world.
Yes. Yeah, oh my goodness, that series was so good.
So good. I love that show so much.
Yeah, the acting in that is impeccable. It's really, really solid. The guy who played Moriarty? No, was it Moriarty?
Yeah, no, Moriarty. Yeah, and then of course Mycroft was good. The actor who played Mycroft was amazing.
Yeah.
It just, the cast that they got for that show was great, and I want to see that in a modern world. That's why I was like, let's do Detective with Sherlock Holmes, but let's put it in the modern age based off that BBC show.
Have you looked into the books that Van Ryder makes?
Yes, I have looked into the graphic novels. I do want to pick up some, and let me see who's in the chat real quick.
Okay,
we're good. So my plan is, if we able to do a white elephant this year, I want to pick up one of those for a white elephant gift this year.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Intriguing. All right, I don't even know who would be in the chat that might. Anyway, we'll talk about that later then.
Yeah.
Spoilers, maybe? No, I don't know. We'll see who listens.
No one's in here that's part of that group in this chat, so.
Right. So my number 2 combines two fairly different Euro games, but they're each like kind of like the pinnacle of their style of mechanism, and I think that combining the mechanisms would be really cool. The first one, I will let you try to guess it, but it is a deck builder, a Euro deck builder.
Dominion?
And there you go. And I don't even know why I said try to let you guess it. You're going to guess it when I say Euro deck builder. Probably.
I was just going to guess it because you already got Carcassonne on the list, so that just leaves Dominion.
Right. But, I mean, well, Carcassonne's not a deck builder. But
no, but you already have one of your favorite video or board games of all time on the list. Why not your other one?
Yeah, exactly. But Dominion, I always thought a deck builder would be really cool for, like, settling areas. Like, Reiner Knizia did it really well with the Quest for El Dorado. It's a race game in a deck builder.
Is it Dominion and Settlers of Catan?
It is. It is. Think about how cool it'd be to like deck build and get resources and then actually build it out and still have the trading of the cards and the skills and the people. That would be cool. Or really like Dominion in any like resource management game would probably work. But I think Dominion in a deck building aspect added to Catan could work really well. The Settlers of Dominion.
I'll try it.
The Dominion of Catan. I don't know. But I think that would work really neat. I've only seen one other game that uses resources in deck building pretty well, and it's Vikings Gone Wild, but it's only gold or beer.
Yeah,
those are your two
enjoy
resources.
That game.
I think having multiple resources and different things and different ways to harvest resources and bonuses for that would be a really cool deck builder.
All right. That'd be interesting.
I sold you on it, huh?
You're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here with these combinations.
I don't think it's too bad.
No, it's not.
Wait till you hear the last one.
Well, it just proves our point that we come in two different variations of gaming itself. You're the dry Euro guy. Yep. This is how you want your games to be. It's dry, Euro, themeless. I'm all about theme guy.
Right. No, I don't disagree with you. Well, so my number 3 was just I want the theme added to the theme of this, or like the whole game.
Yeah.
My number 2 was I want these two mechanisms to be combined. Number 3 is I want these two games to be together. And you'll see what it is.
Can you guess what my number 1 is?
I'm going to take a few stabs in the dark to see if I can figure out some of them. But first off, I think Deception might be one of them.
Nope.
Okay. I didn't think so. Is it H.P. Lovecraft at all?
Nope.
Okay. So I'll tell you the one that I thought you were talking about.
Okay.
And I think this would be actually a cool game. Would be a combination of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars Rising or Thanos Rising, and be Lord of the Rings Rising. I think that would be cool, but that's what I thought you were going to say. All right, then I haven't a clue.
So one of them is one of the games on this combination is a game that I actually am okay with. You like it a little bit more than me, but I think it doesn't give me the feel as much as I would want in the theme. And it's one of your favorite games, and it's. I'll put it this way. It's one of the games that caused you to get into the show that it's based on.
Oh, so that's either going to be Firefly or it's going to be... Okay. Or it would be Star Trek Panic, but Firefly.
Yeah,
okay.
Firefly, the board game, is one of them.
I should have... Yeah.
Can you guess what the other game that goes with it?
Gloomhaven?
No. It's one of my more recent games. You've seen it, but you haven't played it.
Oh, I haven't played it. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Well, if I haven't played it, I don't know it exists then.
Yeah, it exists. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Western Legends.
Oh, okay.
I want that sci-fi Western feel that Firefly gives you. That is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And Western Legends gives me that Western theme. Now, mix it with sci-fi where you're going to like open world where you can go to different planets, we're shooting it out, we're getting into space battles. Oh my god. And you could do it any which way you want possible. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pick up and deliver game. Kind of like mixing it with the Outer Rim, where you don't really have to be a pick up and deliver these resources to these people. It could be like, hey, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to steal from this guy and take that stuff to this guy. Or I'm going to go over here and I'm going to shuttle these people here and there. But, oh, great, there's a bandit gang I can get in fights with. Or there's the Alliance, I think it's what it's called. You can get into fights with on the ground or in space. And just give me that open world Firefly feel.
You want a Firefly sandbox game? That would be cool. Awesome. I don't disagree with that. That does. I would play that 100%.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give you a little hint on this next one because I do want you to try and guess it.
Okay.
First of all, they are both gateway games.
Ticket to Ride.
Okay, you got one. And the other one's already been said. By me.
Was it like in your honorable mentions?
Yep.
God, I don't remember what your honorable mentions was. Was it the one in the half that I just ignored?
Nope.
Gateway games.
Come on, you said it. You even said that it had to be in my list. You were just surprised that it was also in my honorable mentions. It's also on this list.
What game was that? I'm drawing a blank. I know it's Ticket to Ride for sure.
Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne.
No, Carcassonne. Oh, was that on your honorable mentions?
Yep.
Oh, the planet thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because think about this. I mean, think about how neat it would be to build the board, have Ticket to Ride be a modular board, and you're creating the paths between the cities. You can still score the city points, but you're also building the paths between them, and you're trying to lay down the cobblestone a la Ticket to Ride style.
Case in point, what I said earlier, dry Euro mechanisms versus themeful games.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make
You
any
like the
sense
blandest
thematically.
of stuff. You are the white bread of board gaming.
I'm okay with that. I am the sauceless chicken tenders of Euros. No, I'm okay with that fact because I think Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride actually would make a lot of sense together. First off, they're two of the best known games. I think route building and tile placement would be two of the best mechanisms to combine because you are creating the routes between them with Ticket to Ride, you are laying down the tiles, building cities with Carcassonne, and you're supplying the chains between the cities with the Ticket to Ride mechanism. That would be brilliant. Lay down a tile, play some trains. I would totally play this. You can't tell me you wouldn't try this at least once.
I'd probably be forced into it, but yes, I would try it.
Oh, you would be forced into it. I would force you into it. Because I think this is something that could happen. In fact, you know what? I have 4-inch square tiles. I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to do this. I will make a version of this. I don't know if it would work at all, but I will find a way to combine the two. Trains and meeples. Think about this, Daniel. Think of the possibilities.
Ticket to Ride has trains and dinosaurs. Didn't really make it work.
Yeah, that was a weird offshoot. I never said that worked. Yeah, but that's my number one, Carcassonne and Ticket to Ride. I really do think that would be a phenomenal game.
All right, for those of you in chat who had the better games, as well as if you see this on YouTube, put down in the comments what do you think would be the better ideas, or some of your own ideas, like they did on our Facebook group for our Facebook group, Board Game Revolution, on the post that we placed there.
Yeah,
let us know.
Absolutely. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/everydayboardgames2020. And there is a space after the 2020, or before the 2020. I found that out the hard way. If you'd like to watch us do this live, come to twitch.tv/everydayboardgames on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, roughly around noon, Mountain Daylight Savings Time.
As well as you can find the audio versions of this podcast on Podbean. Everyday Board Games Podcast is actually what it's under now.
Okay. And then also, if you would like to see future episodes, coming up this Friday in just 2 days, we're going to have the top 8 debate for animal games. Which are the best animal-based games?
Yeah, this one was a fun one to try to come up with and get done, and there was a game on the list that got eliminated because, kind of animal-y, but not really.
Well, let's bring it up. It is Jaipur,
Jaipur,
that has
there are
camels
in it, but the camels really...
Yeah, they're a trading commodity at that.
Yeah. So our seeding goes as such. The number 1 game, Wingspan, versus the 8-game Evolution.
Our number 2 seed, Caverna, versus our number 7 seed, Fox in the Forest.
Our 3 seed, Dungeon Pets, versus our 5 seed, Baron Park.
Bunny Kingdom.
Is it Bunny Kingdom? I thought Bunny Kingdom was 6 seed.
Yeah, you said number 3 seed versus number 6 or 5 seed.
Oh, sorry, 6 seed. Yeah, my bad.
Bunny Kingdom. And then our number 4 seed, Takanoko, versus our number 5 seed, Baron Park.
Sorry, I had a whole different bracket that I had to fix because of the elimination of.
Yeah, of Jaipur. Yeah, I mean, it just really couldn't fit into the list. We don't yet have a theme for Monday for our board game breakdown yet. We do have talks with a lot of other guests that we do like bringing them in, but we'll probably be talking about those later on. If you're on Twitch with us right now, hang out. We will decide that right now, as well as next week's Chits and Giggles podcast. So, with that being said, I've been Daniel.
And Daniel.
And this has been Everyday Board Games.
Have a good one.